every individual from Oakland.
Welcome. This is Pain to Power, and I am your host, Maria Cosme, also known as Brown Girl Interrupting. And this is the show where we turn our struggles into our strengths and we heal in community. And I'm super excited for tonight's show because it is a special episode where we are going to be going back to all the seasons because it has been quite a journey from the start of season 1 all the way now to season 5. And highlighting some amazing moments and great episodes. Now, I got to say that there were so many, it was very hard to choose because I have loved and learned from every single person who comes on this show and is across from me in this conversation about how to heal, how to grow, and how to stay grounded in who we are. So hopefully tonight you are going to be in the chat. You are going to be asking questions and connecting with me. This is an engaging, interactive conversation, and we are going to get started. So the thing I was thinking about is that I have this quote, and it is actually my quote that I wrote. But remembering who you are is how you take your power back. Recognizing the journey that brought you here is how you claim it. And that is the absolute truth. And I think the journey of what Pain to Power has been. So to start us off, we always begin this show talking about our identity and the importance of identity. So I talk a lot about being the brown girl interrupting because brownness is part of my identity, but my guests always have their own stories. And that backstory is part of what gives us the understanding of who they are. And I love it. Peace J58. Thank you, team. I love that you're here and with us in the chat. So I want to actually share and highlight 2 guests that talked about their stories of identity. So the first you're going to be hearing from is Grindstone, who's featured in season 3. And he is from Grindstone Universal and right now has a YouTube show called Sorry for My Language and an album called Sorry for My Language. So make sure you check him out and listen here as he talks about his experiences of growing up in Oakland and how that impacted his journey.
Every individual from Oakland in my era was really stamped with that hustle, do for self, cultural awareness. And so that's really where I come from.
I love that. And I mean, so can you tell us a little bit about, because I know in our conversations, you went even deeper into like what that looked like as a kid in school, because you went to a really like dynamic but powerful school. So
elementary school or public school?
Well, I think we're talking about before Shelton's Primary Education Center. So that's where you ended up, but you were in another space that led to that, right?
No, so Shelton's Primary, that was like my first, I mean, it was a primary education center. So that was like from first grade up. But before that, it was the nursery school and the preschool. So like, to make a long story short, I'm not even sure if I could shorten it, but I'm not gonna make it that long. So a great woman and her husband told their daughters, tell your friends to bring their kids to our house and we'll watch them. Because like all their friends, the college friends, they all had kids around the same time. And so that became the nursery. So I remember going to the nursery, I might have been like 3. So in the nursery, It was small, but it was like a little house, little playground in the back, basic nursery, right? But it went so well that when we were aging out of that, they were like, man, you know what? We need to have a kindergarten. Like we need to go from nursery. We need to have a kindergarten and pre-K. I see. Now we like the long version.
Yes, no holdbacks, always.
So the Black Panther started in 1966 in Oakland. Okay, so in 10 years from now, like in the mid 70s, there was a lot of Black Panther vibes, and there was a lot of we're going to do this, right? So all the people's parents were really, really with, okay, you know what, we're going to do this ourselves. That's, you know, the women graduating from college, they were getting their jobs, and it was kind of like, you know, the first ones to graduate from college and all that. So as the children of that, we were all grouped together. And it wasn't like we don't like them or them, but it was like we really love us. You know, so it was like a really positive. We learned so much information from the time we were young, from nutrition and geography, math, all types of different stuff. It went so well. We had so much fun. We didn't realize we were learning. They moved to the pre-K. So in the pre-K, Shelton's Primary Education Center, it wasn't even called that yet. It didn't even have a name. It was because it wasn't big enough to have a name. It was just like we going over to Shelton, right? So when we moved to the kindergarten, upstairs, Kamala Harris, vice president now, Kamala and her sister Maya, they lived upstairs, and their mom was friends with Miss Shelton. So Kamala and Maya, who were a little older than us, they would be helpers. So, you know, like you're in the kindergarten and then you got like the older girl. So like, you know, they were the helpers and stuff. And I mean, it was very normal. You know, it's not like she's going to be in the politics one day. It wasn't, you know, who knew, you know? And so then from that went so well, we started aging out of that. They then started renting buildings and built a elementary school. And that was Shelton's Primary Education Center. And through that, it was just a place of beautiful Blackness. It was crazy. There was one half Black, half white person at the school. Everybody else was Black. And it wasn't strange. And like I told you in our other thing, I did not meet a white person until I was 10. And that, I know it sounds crazy, but that was Oakland. So that's just how it was. But we learned so much. We were so enriched. You know, we practiced the principles of Kwanzaa. And I remember when Roots came out on TV, we all had to like stop playing. And we were just kids. We had to all watch Roots. As long as Roots was, we had to watch all of it. You know, we had to take notes on the Democratic national primaries. All that stuff is children. We had to watch the Muhammad Ali fights because they used to come on regular TV. Like we knew all, like we were very aware of who we were. And I really learned a sense of community from that. And I learned, you know, looking back on that, the people who were doing all that, they were in their 20s. The people who were maybe creeping to the early 30s, but it just gave me a sense of responsibility and the knowledge that I can do for, so I don't have to wait for some big event. Every individual from Oakland in my era was really stamped with that hustle, do for self.
All right. Shout out to Grindstone and Grindstone Universal. I love that episode. That conversation was dynamic and with so many gems, but you can see how his upbringing has definitely impacted who he is and how he speaks on things. So definitely go check him out on Sorry for My Language on YouTube and his new album, Sorry for My Language. My next clip is, again, this idea of culture and identity. And this was a really special interview because it was with Tanushree Sin, who is the host of the podcast, The Desi Condition. And she also was the very first podcast I got to be featured on that is a South Asian podcast focusing on mental health. And I talked about divorce and mental health. So make sure you go check out that. But watch this clip here as Tanushree tells you more about this idea of what is it to be Desi and how that impacted her in her journey of understanding identity. But I think before we start having this whole conversation, Desi is a word that most South Asians know very well, but most other people have never heard before. So break down the definition of Desi for our viewers here.
Yes. So the Desi Condition is the name of the podcast. I'll start actually with the name of the podcast. The Desi Condition is a double entendre. So you think of the human condition, the Desi Condition. Desi is often, now I'll answer your question. Desi is often confused with South Asian. It's not really that, although it's very close to meaning South Asian. The translation is actually, it means native or from the country or of a certain country, and it refers specifically to India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. And so when I talk about the Desi Condition, it's the human condition of being Desi, but it's also about mental health. So you sometimes often talk about mental health conditions as well.
I love that. And I love the double entendre because yes, right. Like it is the human condition, but what you just said is so important because I remember the first time I used Desi and someone in school, I think it was in elementary school, it was an Indian kid who was like, that just means you're from the nation. I was like, but that's how I describe myself, you know, like it is a mixed feeling for many. And I would say that I know in the South Asian community, in my community, I'm Bangladeshi and Pakistani, and I know you're from Bangladesh.
I'm Bengali, yeah.
Bengali, yeah. So, you know, that term is kind of something that is like this known understanding between some of us, though, right? So I appreciate you extending that because we've got an audience here who maybe has never even heard that term before, and so I do want everybody to understand it. And then obviously, there's the podcast itself, but before we get into more on why you started this podcast, give me a little bit more background just about you. So you are Bengali, and tell me, like, you know, just your family history and a little bit about you growing up.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, I'm Bengali, and that's about as definitively as I can kind of describe my ethnic background because it kind of starts to get a little confusing from there. So you know a little bit the history of what happened out there. But while my parents were growing up, they grew up in what's now Bangladesh. At the time, it was either India or depending on what time in history, it was either part of India or it was part of Pakistan. So what was then considered East Pakistan. And then later in 1971, it became Bangladesh, which it is today. But at that point, my parents had already left. And so around the time that my parents left, it was due to, there's a lot of tensions, like kind of religious strife at the time in that region, and kind of there still is, unfortunately. And so my family's Hindu. And so the way that Pakistan was established was that it was supposed to be an Islamic nation. And so there was like some religious strife. And so it was not really safe for Hindus to be there at the time. And so they immigrated to India. And so that was the whole thing. But I'm not necessarily sure how to identify, I guess, as Indian or as Bangladeshi. I'm not sure. Both sides of my family speak Bangladeshi dialects of Bengali, and yet I've never actually been to Bangladesh because all of my family now is in India for the reasons that I just said. So I don't know. I'm confused. So I just say that I'm Bengali.
But I think before we start having this whole conversation, Desi is a word that most South Asians know very well, but most other people have never heard before. Oh, I love it. That was such a great conversation. I hope you get to go back and watch it because it gives you a deeper understanding of South Asian culture and the dynamics of it. And I definitely do want you to learn a little bit about if you don't know it. And if you know it, maybe you'll hear something that resonates with you in how culture and identity has impacted you. And I love it. I've got No Holdbacks TV in the chat. Welcome Welcome, Tasha. Love the recap, PG. Thank you. And thank you so much. Definitely share your thoughts on something that resonates with you, questions you have. Well, I mean, I'll be answering the questions. No guests here to answer them, but if they're questions for me, because this has been quite a journey. And I have to say, I'm so appreciative of everyone who supports by watching, by tuning in, whether it's the rebroadcast or it's live in the chat, like Tasha and J58 have been. It's really about just us connecting and learning from each other. So make sure you follow Tanushree Sen as well. Go to the Desi Condition. It is found on iHeartRadio, on Ruckus Radio, and she has the Desi Condition show where many different South Asians are featured talking about mental health and the importance of recognizing all the dynamics and the complexities of what that looks like. Thank you so much, Shalogic and Francis. This is powerful. This is powerful, and I love it. And I love that I've got so much of my iRant family here. And if you haven't done it yet, please make sure that you are subscribing, hit the bell, hit the like, and share this podcast with someone else you think is going to gain from hearing stories of others, just like Grindstone and Tanushree, talking about how we heal, how we find and understand our identity, and the role that it all plays with each other, with ourselves. Thank you so much, J58. Oh yeah, I love it. Tasha said, who did I learn from the most? Oh my God. I don't know if there's any from the most. Like, I think that every different episode, I learn something new about myself and I take away a new tool. So there's not one particular one that stands out, but it definitely has been that there are like these eye-opening moments where I'm like, ooh, I do that. or like, wow, like I was feeling that and someone just gave me the language for it. And I hope that just like I am having epiphanies and growth and evolution, you are all doing that as well, as you are listening to the podcast and engaging and going back and watching all those episodes, don't forget, and following all those folks because they're doing some amazing work. So this show is not just about identity, it is about healing. And the quote I want to share with you that I love is, the journey isn't about becoming someone else. It's about unbecoming everything that isn't really you. And this is from Paulo Coelho, who is the author of The Alchemist, one of the books that I referenced in just my last show here. And that's what so many of the individuals you're about to watch this now have been doing, is the healing journey, which is understanding and grounding themselves in this evolution of what it is to come home to ourselves. And it requires us to unearth, understand, and interrupt narratives and patterns that have put us in cycles of pain or stagnancy. So please watch this show. And yeah, kind of to your question, no holdbacks, this was a moment where I had one of those where I was like, wow, that's what I needed. And this is Saskia Catherine, who is going to be sharing her conversation on understanding how to open ourselves up to love when we've closed ourselves off. And you definitely want to follow and understand her deep inner parts work that she's been doing as a multiple modalities healer. And no holdbacks, you said, I definitely had an epiphany or two with your show. Well, thank you for that. And I definitely want to hear more after we watch Saskia. Definitely want to hear more about what those epiphanies were. So get ready to throw that in the chat.
Accomplished at the bottom of it all, it was who's going to pick me and who's going to love me, right? And that continued to be the desire until I was able to then pause and say, wait, who am I, right? And we can go into sort of what catalyzed that, but I'll pause here to see if you have another question.
I love that. And I want to first go to our chat because I see that there's some comments coming up because people are listening. And I see Lift Oneself says, when your heart closes, how do you open it back up? Oh, that's an excellent question. And welcome, Lift Oneself. She was on our show last week.
Welcome.
So when your heart closes, how do you open it back up?
That's a really beautiful question. I think one of the things that happens when we close our hearts is that we might believe that we're closing it to other people, and that is true. But inevitably, we are closing it to ourselves. And so this question of how do you open it back up, I would say one is you've got to feel it. You've got to feel what it is that caused you to want to guard yourself and close it. You got to feel the pain. You got to feel the anger. You got to feel the abandonment, the betrayal, the rejection, whatever it is. And that is quite uncomfortable. But really being able to either do that with yourself or finding a therapist or a guide or somebody, a trusted friend, right, that can hold some space, a loved one that can hold the space for you to not think about it and talk about it and intellectualize it, but like actually, truly, fully feel it. And oftentimes, if we're talking about something, that happened as an adult that caused me to close my heart, it's then going to track back to much more historical, right? Much more younger self. What did that trigger in you? And so then you have the opportunity to go back there and go back and get that little self and say, okay, let's actually heal this, because this is the thing that we have to talk about. This is the thing that we have to heal. So I think my encouragement again is, we think we're closing ourselves off to other people, but oftentimes we've closed ourselves off to, we're doing the closing as a way to protect from the little self, the inner child that is more hurt, more triggered by whatever that external betrayal, or rejection or pain was. And so it's like, okay, this actually isn't about you. It's not about the other person. It's now, if I'm feeling like I have to close my heart, it's because it's time for me to go inside and be with that younger part of myself and help her and ensure that she feels from me that she is loved.
Before we started the show, we talked about timing. And the timing of everything for this conversation is so apt, just in the week that we've had as a country, as a nation, as people, as humans. But also, I think the timing of everything you just said, for me personally, I cannot tell you how powerful it is to have heard that again. And there's something that stuck with me. You said we have to not intellectualize our feelings, but feel them. And I was thinking about what you mentioned when you talked about your checklist and this idea that we had to be, so we're working for something. And checklists tend to then get us into this intellectualization of goals. Feeling is such a different experience. How was that shift for you, going from intellectualizing to feeling? Was there a struggle in that shift?
Yes, and it was one of the biggest keys that switched things for me. So when we experience trauma, one of the bigger things that our brain then focuses on is survival. And when you have to survive, you don't have time for all of the feeling, right? You have to get smart. You've got to think about what it is that you need to do. So like when the bear is in front of you, it's not time for you to notice how you're feeling about it. It's time for you to actually cut off, right? It's like there's a separation that happens then from the brain and the body. And you're like, let me shove all those feelings down and then let me learn how to be logical, how to rationalize, and how to do what feels logical in the moment, right? No matter how misguided, but like I have to just be up here because I've got to think my way through this. And so while therapy was very helpful for me, when I started to learn embodiment practices and really understand, okay, what does it mean to feel a feeling? Like to notice the sensation in my body, to know where it lives, to track the intensity of it, to allow it, to notice if I'm judging it and actually push that back and say, no, this is okay, to let myself cry, to let myself scream, right? That is a completely different thing than talking about it. And those of us, when we're smart, when we're very high achieving, when we're very textbook oriented, we'll be emotionally intelligent in the sense of having the language. And so sometimes it's hard for us to know for ourselves, and even for a therapist or somebody else, a friend, to know that we're not actually feeling, because we can talk about it all day long, but there's not the emotion of it. There's not the sitting with it. There's the packaging of the story or the narrative, and the trying to move past and get to the lesson or get to the so what or get to the solution. And I had to learn to, no, it's okay. It's okay for 3 days. I mean, again, talk about timing, right? This week, it's okay to not have any answer, to not know how to take any action, to just sit with anger,
Mm.
with rage, with sadness, with disappointment, with despair, because when I sit with all of that and I actually let that move through me, then that's when that inner wisdom comes up. Then that's when we can access our higher self. So I learned that emotions are our friends and that emotions carry information, and that when we suppress them and compartmentalize them and ignore them, we miss some really key information that's going to support us in our journey and support us not only in our self journey, but in whatever actions, to put in context again, whatever actions it is that we want to take externally.
Mm. And follow Saskia. Please go and watch that episode. It was quite powerful. I know that I was left thinking about emotions and the power of emotions, but also how we truly harness what we need by listening to us. And Tasha, you got one epiphany, was how important it is to tell your story, but because it can help others. I really appreciate that, Tasha. And I hope that this show has given you some permission to tell more of your story. And you already have. And go check out Tasha. She's got No Holdbacks TV, and she is a host as well, and shares many stories of other people through some great conversation. So I love that, Tasha. Thank you so much. And I think I saw Jay, you had a comment too about Saskia. Guard your heart is a big deal. It's difficult to get back to your original self, but at some point you have to meet in the middle of your feeling without giving too much view to lack of expectations. Oh, due to lack of expectations. Yes, for certain, right? Like, I think that question, and go check out Lift Oneself and that conversation. I told y'all I had so many more people I wanted to feature in this that I didn't get to. And I'm hoping we do another highlights show. If y'all love this, make sure you let me know in the comments. I will definitely do more because there are so many people to highlight. But go and check out Lift Oneself as well, who is Nat, and she was featured on the show and shares her healing journey. And make sure with Saskia, she has the Alchemy Lab, which is something that you can attend for free. It is online, and it allows you to start some of that inner parts work and reflection. Nat was dope, wasn't she? Josh, she was absolutely dope, right? So, and all my guests are. So this next guest that you are about to watch is Dr. Trudy Ann Frazier. Now, she is a beautiful soul. And she shares so vulnerably and honestly how she has maintained this light and love about her through some dark moments. So please check out Dr. Trudy Ann Frazier. Even for myself, and I know you're looking at me like, oh, but you have, and I have some skills, and I've gotten some skills, and I know that where I am today compared to where I was 6 years ago or 4 years ago is been in a vacuum. So something, and you talked about burnout in your work experience, but have there been other big catalysts in your life that have pushed you to have to start to shift that mindset? Or have you always thought like this?
Girl, no. Let me.
Well, thank you for that, because now I don't feel so bad.
And I was going to respond to you as you were speaking, and then don't let me forget to transition to your question. Mara, I don't have it all together. Please don't look, in Atlanta we say don't get it twisted. I do not have it all together. I think what I do have and what I know to be true is I give myself grace. And a lot of times grace is the hardest thing to give yourself. You give it to everybody else, but when it comes to Trudy Ann Frazier, I forget and I'm hard on myself. And then I feel guilty. So instead of being gracious, I'm guilty and I'm beating up on myself, and it doesn't amount to anything. So when I find myself going, I take a moment. I have some eucalyptus spray in my office and I spray it and I take a breath and I'm like, all right, Trudy, reframe, take a moment. So no, I don't have it all together. I just know that I'm a work in progress. And I think you said it very well. I'm not what I want to be, but I'm also not where I used to be. So baby steps, one step after the other. And I think in Atomic Habits, that book by James Clear, he talks about baby habits, that the atom is the most basic element. And see, I'm nerding out a little bit, but they're the most basic element in the human body. But when you put it all together, we become this beautiful creation. But it starts with those small habits. So I would say the biggest thing, I speak on it, I try to live it, even though I don't have it right every time, but giving yourself grace. And that starts with gratitude for where we are now, but giving yourself grace. Let me transition into your question. Have I always been here? No. I would say it's a sad story, but it's the purpose in my pain. I think your show is called Pain to Power. And Atomic Habits is on my list. Yes, order it and be audible.
I was thinking the same thing. I know it's one that I'm wanting to.
I read it and I listen to the audible at the same time so I can stay focused. But in any case, I was talking about my bathroom floor moment. So I'm thankful. I was that kid. My parents did not. So they were both teachers in Jamaica. After Daddy transitioned from playing sports, he became a teacher. He taught biology, and my mom was a physical education teacher. So my parents valued education, as most immigrant parents do. They're like, which one are you going to be? Doctor, lawyer, engineer? You know, most Caribbean parents, because they know about the opportunities that open. They're familiar with education. They're not really familiar with all the other stuff, which is a whole nother conversation that it sounds like we may need to open up. But in any case, I was told to model my books. So I modeled my books and I was blessed, and input always equaled output for me. So you study, you work hard, you get tutoring, you ask for help, and then the pieces fell together for me. And I'm so thankful for that. But what I found in my first marriage was that input was not equaling output. When I was dealing with somebody who, without getting too grim or centering this conversation around the sad part, somebody that just was not pouring into their own cup. So they showed up empty. And here I was trying to pour and fill, not recognizing that, wait, all they're doing is taking. And now I show up depleted. I need to fill myself, and you need to show up full. Even if it's 3/4 full, it's still better than empty. And then together we pour from our overflow. Well, that was not the case in my first marriage. I got married about 10 years ago, actually, to my first husband. And things just hit the fan. And I found myself on the bathroom floor for the third time, crying my eyes out, not knowing where to turn. I just knew I was in a different city from where my family was. We'd moved to Texas, and I was not sure of myself. I placed my worth in his hands. And what I know now from that experience, owning that power, is just because somebody doesn't see my worth, my value doesn't change. But Myra, I had to go through that experience in order to grow through it. And now, like, I'm glowing a little bit, like that experience, that beat down. Sometimes you go through the pressure and you're sifted like gold. That was my sifting experience. And no, I'm not perfect, but I sure am better than I was before. But I'll never forget that bathroom floor moment, because I didn't experience that in life. Like, my parents sacrificed for me and my 3 siblings so that we can have what they didn't have. And school came easy for me, and I worked hard. And I was like, wait, I'm working hard at this, but it's not working out for me. And I didn't know where to turn. And I came back home. At the house I live in now, was being rented by some wonderful renters before, but I went right back home to my mama's house upstairs.
Even for myself, and I know you're looking at me like, oh, but you have, I have some skills, and I've gotten some skills, and I know that where I am today compared to wow. So Dr. Trudy Ann Fraser, you saw it. She's a light, and she's hilarious. So it was a great conversation. Please go and follow her. I've got to say a big shout out to her and congratulations. She is now a mama to be, and taking a little break from some of the work, but definitely an amazing person. I love it. Troy Hines, welcome. Sending peace and love. Thank you, Troy. I appreciate you checking in and being here. And Tasha, you said that's how I end my sessions with clients. Don't forget to give yourself what my clients say grace. I love it. Yes, don't forget to give yourself grace. And I mean, like all of the nuggets, right? Sifted like gold. I love that one, right? And yes, Whiskey Girl, also an amazing guest on my show. Hey, y'all. Hey, Whiskey. So lovely to see you. Go and check out my interview with Whiskey. It was amazing as well. So, what I love is that, and people always ask me this, right? How do I find my guests? So sometimes I find my guests, and sometimes they find me, and sometimes the universe just aligns. So this next person, Elena Holloway, I have to say, shout out to the event 202 Creates, because it allowed me to find this amazing soul and powerful woman who has gone through such a tremendous amount of pain, but come out in this beautiful, powerful space. And she's going to be sharing and talking about her story as a mother and some of that unlearning of messages. But it was really that I was sitting at 202 Creates. I looked across the bar, saw this woman in an amazing green suit, and just had to go and say hello because we made eye contact. And once you make eye contact, you can't look away. You got to go talk to them. And I did. And we started a conversation, told her about my show. And here we are with Elena Holloway, who came as a guest to share her story of pain to power.
To do that. Going back, getting it right with my kids, that's unheard of for my generation. Apologize for what? You eat every day, right? You have clothes to wear, right?
Right.
So to be able to go back and learn how to be a mother and listen and hear, and then when I leave them and go in my room at night, all right, Lord, now how do I balance this? What part of this is you? What part can I take away? What part can they feel heard? Like, it's a lot of work. But those were the things, and just being judgmental. Like, my way is not always the right way. There's multiple ways. And taking the time to really sit and figure things out. So it was unlearning. I mean, this could be a whole 2-day series, because I've had to unlearn so much. And then not just unlearn, but balance out what I already knew. Because some things you don't have to unlearn. I think that there needs to be a different narrative, that going back, getting it right with my kids, that's unheard of for my generation. Apologize for what? You eat every day, right? You have clothes to wear, right?
Right.
So to be able to go back and learn how to be a mother and listen and hear, and then when I leave them and go in my room at night, all right, Lord, now how do I balance this? What part of this is you? What part can I take away? What part can they feel heard? Like, it's a lot of work. But those were the things, and just being judgmental. Like, my way is not always the right way. There's multiple ways. And taking the time to really sit and figure things out. So it was unlearning. I mean, this could be a whole 2-day series, because I've had to unlearn so much. And then not just unlearn, but balance out what I already knew. Because some things you don't have to unlearn. I think that there needs to be a different narrative, and that there needs to be balance.
Yeah.
What does balance look like? What does balance feel like? How do this really work, right? Especially in 2023. What does that look like? To do that? Going back, getting it right with
Wow, what does balance look like? I mean, again, shifting our narratives is such a layered experience, and everyone approaches it differently. So hopefully what you're taking away is different tools for you to think about your own healing, and something is resonating with you. Gotta say a big shout out to Elena. She is actually, in this time since that episode in season 3, she has gone back and started she is almost finished with her degree after all this time. And you want to definitely make sure and go and watch that show, because her story is tremendous. And go check her out on Instagram, because she has a new fragrance line that you're going to want to check out. So I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And thank you so much to all of my friends for coming in here. I want to say, I didn't mention it, but Troy J. Hines, who was here in the chat, was also on the show, featured in season 3, I believe. Could be season 2, season 3. There are so many seasons, folks. I don't remember when, but if you go in my YouTube channel, right down here, it is all laid out for you. Seasons 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which is the current season. And you can see all the shows. And very soon, you're also going to be seeing the live show that we did in January with 2 amazing comedians. So we are moving into our next clip. And this one is, all right, sometimes they find me, right? Sometimes I find them. This one was a beautiful, unexpected conversation that came from a trip I took with one of my colleagues, Dina Kune. And we went to Puerto Rico together after a time when she was going through some deep grief. And I asked her to do an episode with me. So what you're going to see is us sitting on a couch together in our Airbnb in Puerto Rico. But what you're going to hear is just so much of the foundation of who Dina is and why that has always been the way that I have seen her message of pain to power as the way she just lives her life. So I've learned a lot of lessons from Dina, and now you're going to learn them too. No, and that's okay. I mean, I think that that's a really honest thing too, right? Mm-hmm. To not be able to, I think, and to me, that's how internalized that socialization of mm-hmm. your awareness of self and mm-hmm. and affirming of self is, right? And I've learned so much because I think I remember one time you said, the word that stuck with me is you said, no one can take my dignity. Mm-hmm. And that was such a strong thing because I remember we were talking about relationships and dating, and that was one of those things with Maria. I was making some bad choices, and I was certainly not recognizing my value the way I needed to. And I think those were things that I remember me and another one of our colleagues, right? We looked at you kind of like, how do you do that? Like, how do you just have it, right? And you do just have it. But so we were actually talking earlier today about this, and you mentioned something that stuck out to me, and I'd love to hear more about it. You said, but it's a double-edged sword because it's bittersweet, right? Like, so what is it that makes it, both
bitter and sweet?
Bitter
the
and
self-love. So I think I get misconstrued. I think people, because I have the self-love, people tend to think maybe it comes out as arrogant, overconfident, sometimes dismissive. It could be many things. I do feel, because people tell me, well, Tina, you don't have to dismiss it. You don't have to be dismissive. And it's really...
I love it. Josh says, you can tell Dina, don't take her crown off. Yes, don't take your crown off. People do dismiss it, but what?
Well, so for me, it's a them problem. And I think so again, see, that's what happens. People think
that's it. It's a them problem. Like, I want to live my life walking through the world being like, that's a them problem. Like, only Dina can do it.
Because I know that I'm not being dismissive, and I think people tend to also think because of self-love. I do have self-love, and for me, that means that I have to have boundaries around my emotions and my connections, and I'm very careful with who I let into my very inner space. Because vibes and stuff mess me up. They can, right? Right. So I'm very careful about that. And so what happens sometimes is that other people will get emotional and get upset that I'm not emotional.
No, and that's okay. I mean, I think that that's a really honest thing too, right? Mm-hmm. All right. So you can see Dina is a character and Dina is fun. She says straight up, Jay said straight up, that's a them problem. Sometimes you can't, nor shouldn't you deal with all the BS. Inner peace for sure, right? But and the boldness, right? So go and check out Dina. Definitely follow her on Facebook. She's not on Instagram, but she's on Facebook. Go check her out because she has some really cool stuff coming up talking about end of life care and how we actually prepare for our end of life by living our life today. So you're not going to miss the things that are coming up with Dina. And Whiskey Girl says, congrats on 5 seasons. Thank you, Whiskey. And thank you for being on 2 of those seasons. So Whiskey was a guest, not only just in this last season, which is season 4, but she has also been a guest, and she was a guest in season 2, if I'm not mistaken. All right. I love it. I love it. And thank you so much. Thank you, Living You Shay Reviews. Great convo. Appreciate it. Thank you for pulling up. Merciful, welcome and thank you. So this next clip, child, I'm a yapper. I love to visit your show. Yes, girl, you know we could talk for hours. Look, again, go and watch my chats with Whiskey because those are always great conversations. And I don't know if y'all have noticed yet, but anybody who's been on my show as a guest has become a friend, because that is what this is. When we heal in community, we build relationships. And when we build relationships, we build this connection amongst each other to help and guide and build and grow together. And that is the goal of this show. And that is definitely the message of my next guest that you're going to watch, who is Emma G. None other than, she's amazing. She is brilliant. She is a youth empowerment coach. She is a singer, a songwriter. She is just a transformative individual. And she's leaving us with this message right now as this final piece before we get into some other conversation on what we need to remember about ourselves as we heal. So check out Emma. But we all have these things that every year, we just closed out a year, right? That stay with us, of something that we have grown in our understanding of. And so as we leave, what is something that you have grown in your understanding of, in the way that you move through the world and the way that you see others move through the world in these last few, I guess maybe this last year? We'll start with that.
So I think, to your point, you have just written a book that has encapsulated 13 life lessons. For me, every life lesson that I've ever learned has been turned into a song. And so every single song that I'm writing and creating carries on teaching me, growing me, and harnessing my journey. I think the life lessons that I'm embracing currently in my life are, and some of them have been made into songs and some of them haven't yet, but the things that are coming to mind for me up front and most strongly for me at the moment are, I am are the 2 most important words in the English language, because whatever we say after those words, those 2 words, shapes our life. So if we are going through the world going, I'm scared, I'm nervous, I'm weak, I'm sorry, I'm too much, then that is how you're not just you're showing up for the world, but also how you show up for yourself. So if we can turn that narrative around and turn that into more of an, I am strength, I am love, I am peace, I am prosperity, I am magnificent, I am unapologetically me, then that is when we can start to see some shifts in our realities. And I think that has been most prevalent for me as I enter into 2023. And of course, I did write a song called I Am, and it is on my last album that is up for a Whammy Award at the moment. But,
I love that.
but here we are, So it's about, turning those life lessons into chapters of your book, or poems in your collection, or songs on your album, and making sure that album is you and is a masterpiece, because you are a masterpiece.
But we all have these things that every year, we just closed out a year. You are a masterpiece. I love it, because that's Emma. That's the energy. She is not going to just know that she is powerful, but she is always making sure everybody knows their power. So make sure you go and follow Emma G on all of the different social media platforms. But also, she just released a single called Grieve, which is a very powerful single talking about her own story of just connection and loss. And she does have an album releasing this weekend. So please make sure you go and check her out, and you check out all that great information. And Whiskey, I did not get to talk about your podcast. Can you put your podcast in there so we know what to follow you on? Because Whiskey is on the iRant Network and has her new show also that is on YouTube here on the iRant Network. And if you haven't done it yet, please go and follow me. I'm Brown Girl Interrupting. I'm Maria. And here we are every week on Sundays talking about the journey of pain to power. Because pain is inevitable, but healing is a choice. And when you make that choice, sometimes we need the tools to know how do we move forward so we don't move backwards. So please come and join me every Sunday for more tools on what this looks like. And if you haven't done it yet, subscribe, hit the like, send this to someone so that they too can have the tools they need. And go and check out all these amazing guests. So, pain to power, that power piece, y'all, that's big. Power comes in so many different forms. And so I want to share this quote with you because, again, when we're thinking about power, it's about the things that we need to do differently. So I am no longer accepting the things I cannot change. I am changing the things I cannot accept. The next three people that you're about to see are very much about this message and living it through their world and their lives and their decisions as they lead with love. So first, I want to show you a clip from another one of my amazing colleagues. Y'all, I work with some amazing people. So you're going to see them throughout in every different space I work in. All my different colleagues are on this show for a reason because they are all taking their pain and turning into power and leading with love. This one person in particular didn't actually originally think he should be on my show, but he very much belongs. Dr. Daryl Howard is sharing his journey of what he is doing for Black boys in education by turning pain into power. But I think
when we had our conversation a few days ago, I had no clue why I should be a guest. I've seen a number of the shows, and you've had some incredibly dope, deep thinking people, but a lot of them seem to be centered in mostly ideas around relationships and communication and just different levels of consciousness and thinking. And I can be an audience member and follow that, right? But I'm like, what do I have to add to that conversation? But the way you framed it to me really made sense about how what I do could be seen as moving pain to power. So I appreciate the add now that I have a better understanding of what that means.
Well, and I'm really glad that you're here because I think that you have in so many ways, as I've been inspired through working with you and seeing you over the years, is you have taken pain and turned it into power when it comes to the education system. So before we go into that, I just want to know for you, when you think about that concept of just pain to power, what does it mean to you?
Yeah. So since I know we have plenty of time, I'll go back because your conversation made me think about it. And as I said, when we were talking, I was driving, so I had another 2 hours to kind of reflect on the short conversation we had. And so this goes back to undergraduate, right? My undergraduate major was a sociology major. And before graduating, I had to do an internship. And I did an internship in prison. And for a semester, I saw a whole bunch of people who looked like me come in those doors. And of course, I was allowed to leave every day. And I remember how big and strong and just the metal, the concrete, all of those hard surfaces and elements that you can't move with a physical, you can't move them physically. No amount of muscle is going to move those things. But I was allowed to have them open for me so that I could leave and so that I could come in. But for them, they stayed every day. And when I came back the next day, they were still there. And to live in that environment, to live in that institution, and for me to engage with them, really kind of opened my eyes to like people shouldn't have to live like this. And I know sometimes people make decisions that require them to be consequenced in some way, I guess. But what can you do as an individual to prevent them from, or at least ensure that they're thinking through the things that they should be considering before doing something that may land them there, right? And so that led me into counseling. And so, I served as a counselor in school for a number of years, but my focus was always on Black and brown boys. And I'll tell you why it was on Black and brown boys. Number one, of course, the prison experience, but to finish my master's degree in counseling, my thesis was on culturally responsive strategies and techniques for counseling African American boys. So this goes back to the 90s for me. Like a lot of people think the work that I'm doing now with boys at the district level, state level, and all that stuff is new. This is not new. Like I've been doing this since the 90s. And that's really about taking pain power, because I saw the pain in individuals' humanity being stripped in that institution, and how can I do something to change that dynamic? And that's kind of where I am now. It still feeds me today, and that's why I was like, okay, maybe I am an appropriate guest for this, because this feeds me every day outside of my own family, like serving, thinking about, writing about, teaching about, praying about Black boys is what I do at the top of the morning and at the end of the day. It's everything that I do outside of my own family. So it made sense to me.
Well, thank you. And I think the way you just you pulled all that together, right? That definitely is. Dr. Howard, for certain. Please go and follow him. And for those of you who are educators, Black and brown men, or women, and just in education, please go and check out his links and his information. He has the Bond Academy, Building Our Network of Diversity, coming up on April 25th to the 27th. And you're not going to want to miss this, where so many other amazing educators and leaders come together and share how we build our network of diversity for the benefit of our Black and brown boys in schools. And Merciful says, how do you spell that word? Which word are we spelling? DESI, DESI, the DESI condition, DESI. I love that. Thank you so much, Merciful. And is that Victorious? So that is Victorious, who also was a guest on the show. And next week is a very special episode, because Victorious and I are going to have an in-person conversation and interview about his new film, Exit Interview, and the soundtrack. So you're not going to want to miss next week with Victorious, and make sure that you go and follow Dr. Howard. So this next guest, okay, this was you land, is it a whale? I don't know what the term is. Put it in the chat if y'all know it. But you land a conversation. So this was a hope and a prayer, and I shot my shot because I went to a comedy show with Zainab Johnson, the comedian, who's brilliant and hilarious. And at the end of the show, I took a picture with her and I posted on Instagram and tagged her, and she liked it. So I shot my shot and I said, hey, I've got a show and I'd love to have you as a guest. So here she is, Zainab Johnson, a guest on my show, talking about how she sees activism and comedy.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that you've been you're always so honest about that. But let me ask you, so do you get pushback? Just thinking about, you talk about personal things, but you also talk about a lot of social justice things through humor. And issues that come up in life, right? That have impacted you personally, but are around, right? They impact a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Do you get pushback, or is there everything that that has made that difficult for you to do in public spaces when you're doing your comedy?
Yeah, sometimes I get pushback if someone has misunderstood what I'm saying, or if they flat out disagree with what I'm saying, like that's fine too. I'll get a little bit of pushback. I think sometimes when you acknowledge certain things, I think sometimes when people champion you and feel like you're their warrior, then they put the burden of being activist or something like that on your shoulders. And that's okay. But I think the misconception or the unreasonable assumption is that everyone's activism shows up in the same way. You know, I again, I am a Black Muslim woman in America. And so, not in America, in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so my lens is always one that is seeking justice, because a lot of things presented in the experience of someone with my same makeup is unjust. And so if it comes out in my stand-up, if it ever comes out when I'm having a conversation, it's only because there's no I'm only like speaking my life, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not, I don't know. I don't want to say that it's not intentional, because I don't want to say that I'm doing this by accident, or that I'm not a willing participant and an intentional person. I am, with what I say and what I present on stage. I am. But I guess the start of it is not, this is a social, I'm gonna make a point.
Right.
I don't start there. By the end, I'll be like, damn, I made a good point. You know, I'll be like,
Yeah.
oh, that's just how I look at it. But
Right.
you know,
Right.
but like, oh, that sounds like what politicians should be saying, you know, but that's not how I start. I start with like, this will be going on in my mind. Yeah.
But okay, so I was clearly super fangirling in that moment because it's Zainab Johnson. I mean, come on now. She's brilliant. She's hilarious. She's beautiful. And she's just so dynamic with the trifecta, right? Of being a Black Muslim woman, right? All the things. And if you haven't done it yet, go check out her special, Hijabs Off, which was really amazing and brilliantly done. So dynamic and different, as well as, honestly, if you don't know many Muslims, that's going to give you your clue as to what it is to know some Muslims. And if you are Muslim, I know it's going to resonate with you. So go watch Hijabs Off. All right. So my next clip and our final one today, Jose Again. Hi, welcome, Jose. Jose says, you miss every shot you don't take. That's for sure, right? So I shoot all of them. I definitely do. Oh, Whiskey said, you're so sweet. I love that you've been doing this for 5 years. Oh, Whiskey, I love that. And I sometimes almost, I pinch myself thinking I've been doing this for 5 years. And I just feel so grateful that I've been doing this for 5 years. And the number of people that I've met, and not just the people on the show, but y'all don't see them, but the background is my people. Ja Logic, also known as Logic, Mr. M, Montaigne. He's got 101 names, but he's always solid in exactly who he is. And he is the most amazing producer, friend, and wonderful person who has helped me to make this show what it is. And of course, I got to give a shout out to J58, who's been in the chat, who is also one of my producers, who's been producing a couple of the shows. And grateful for him, grateful for the team, grateful for the iRant network and all the folks on here. And many of these folks have become part of the iRant network after being on the show, which is a pretty cool thing for certain. So we are building and learning in community. All right, so closing us out, this individual was just a really powerful force of how important it is, one, to act, but also to work through those fears we have of being activist, of speaking out, of taking those brave steps. Kimon Freeman is an amazing person from We Act Radio, and this is a clip where he talks about how do we move through those fears that we have. Spoke to it when you talked about Eleanor Holmes Norton and her response, right? Why isn't that she's not willing to say ceasefire? There's a fear there, right? So what I wonder, and I wonder if you can offer to our audience, is how do you move through the fear of standing in what you believe in? How did you do it? How did you move from being okay with not everyone being okay with you?
Well, I wish I could give you the exact dates since I'm so good with dates. But sometime in 2001, top of 2002, it was the winter of that 2001, 2002. I was still working at the post office. I was a window clerk. I was selling stamps and money orders. And a woman who I've come to find out later was actually a congressman's wife. So it's apropos for me to, 20 years later, be running for Congress and married to a congressman, set me on a different trajectory in my life, because she had said something racist to me. She wasn't directing to me. She said that she wished that they would take all these Arabs and send them back to where they came from, right? This is right after 9/11. And I'm like, ooh, I could have let that go. I could have pretended like I didn't hear what I just heard. But I come from a people who had to bite their tongues and bow their heads and smile when it wasn't funny and scratch when it wasn't itching and stepping off curbs in deference to the institutional white supremacy. And I made a promise to myself that I would never do that. I would never bite my tongue. I would never back down. I would stand up for all those countless voices who couldn't speak for themselves. And so when she said that, I pushed back and said, well, you need to be careful, because that was a very racist statement. And she was like, I'm not a racist. I'm like, I didn't say you were racist. I'm saying that sounded like very much like go back to Africa. And she was like, oh, no, I wouldn't say that because Black people love America. I'm like, whoa. I said, oh, Black people don't love America. Who told you that? She was like, you work at a post office, you don't love America? I was like, nah. Wasn't in my job description. I'm just and money orders. Would it be anything else? And I thought we were just having a dialogue, a debate, if you will. But a couple of days later, she wrote a letter to Jesus and 12 disciples and 3 more white people, and then I ultimately got fired. And when I got fired, that was my last good government job. I was raised to aspire to, as many Black people are. And I lost everything I own. It took about a year and a half for that to happen, but I slowly lost everything I own, possession-wise. And it's not until you lose everything that you fear nothing. And so the secret sauce to my power is that I fear nothing, having lost everything. I rebuilt myself. So there's nothing they can do, threaten that could intimidate me, because my greatest accomplishment is being able to conquer my fears in the pursuit of the truth. And until we conquer our fears, we'll never become our true selves. And that's why I'm able to step out here 10 toes down, as they say, because they have no fear over me. And I wish that for everyone. Nina Simone said freedom to her meant living without fear. Malcolm X said that, I hope all the fear you have in your heart is taken out. Martin Luther King said, I fear no man. Fear is a very constant thing, and that's how they control us. Money, absolutely, or fear. Those are 2 consistent mechanisms the oppressor has at their disposal to maintain and preserve the status quo. And once you overcome those two, then you're unstoppable, and I've overcome those two.
I love that. And the power of that, in that you've taken that power back, right? I feel spoke to it when you talked about Eleanor Holmes Norton and her response, right? Why is it that she's not willing to say, wow, conquer our fears in pursuit of the truth? I mean, if we're not ending in power with that one, I don't know what we're doing, y'all, because that's it. Conquer our fears in pursuit of the truth. Jose says, this one of my favorite episodes. Love the content. Oh, this one. Thank you so much. I love that. Thanks, Jose. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks, J58. Hearts and love. I love it. Victorious Merciful says the bathroom floor, the kitchen, all that. Oh, Lord. Yeah, that bathroom floor moment when Dr. Trudeanne talked about it, I can tell you I have had many bathroom floor moments. And truthfully, all of this, thank you, Troy Body. Congratulations, Brown Girl. Thank you so much. Troy Body was also on my show in season 3. He is, again, another one of my amazing colleagues. And he is not just a colleague, he was my honored to be boss, and took me on a journey of truly knowing and discovering myself in my power, in my leading. And so that's a lot of this, right? Everything that I've been talking about and why I bring people to this stage and this conversation is because this has been my journey. My journey has been finding my power within my pain. And hopefully you have understood better, walked away with some tools, resonated with something, heard someone that you're going to go back and watch and follow and be a part of, and understanding and knowing what they're doing. And I got to give a shout out, because with Kimon, I didn't get to say it yet. I want to make sure y'all know. Kimon Freeman is from We Act Radio. Go and follow him there. And there is a rally, the Good Trouble Rally, coming up on April 4th at the Black Lives Matter Plaza in DC. So if you're in DC, make sure April 4th you go to the Good Trouble Rally and you are part of that resistance and not the fear. And so, yes. Thank you so much for tuning in with me today. I want to remind everybody that if you haven't done it yet, I have revamped my website. So that website right down here, www.browngirlinterrupting.com, has some amazing new photos. Shout out to Jean Sizemore for that. And just so much more. You're going to see all of the shows are right there in the media section. You've got my writing and my blog that talks about my own journey of pain to power, culture, identity, relationships, love, healing, all of it. So please go and check out my blog. Please go and check out the website. Make sure that you are tuning in every Sunday. There it is. Look at that fire photo, right? Matching the chair with my hair. Like, who does that? That just happened, y'all. I didn't even plan that. I got there and the chair was the same color and it just worked out. And I am really excited to announce that very soon, stay tuned, there are some amazing courses being developed by me and a team of some wonderful people, Mia and Damon, who are, and we are going to be unleashing Empowerment Unlocked. So if you like some of the tools that you hear here, the way that I've set up this show, what's come from all of this, please make sure that you are coming and taking these courses. It's 5 courses to really recognize and understand how to shift the narratives that we have that hold us back from coming home to ourselves. Thank you so much to everyone who tuned in, to everyone who was in the chat, to everyone who has helped to make this what it is. I am Maria Cosme, and this is Pain to Power, and we are always going to continue to find our power in our struggles by healing in community. Peace, love, and light. My world has slowly crumbled around me countless times, and every time I rebuild with the pieces I've been given to birth something so transformational and beautiful that no one else knew might exist before it was shown to them. These moments tend to coincide within my romantic path. The universe has been telling me to focus on the revolution and not romance. It has over time given me the tools, resilience, and light to turn my pain into power. And only now do I see that the key to this always resided in the love and knowing I had in myself, not from the external sources of family or men. The message I have been avoiding might be that my time in this world I had existed in was not to receive love, but to put it out there for others to see, feel, and heal through. Revolution before romance moves pain into power.